record button on here. All right, chapter 4. Any last questions that you have? All right. If not, camera's on. Go ahead and log in. I will double check. I scheduled your test for 8:45. I had some issues where it wasn't up and running for the first Zoom. What questions do you have?
Can you explain the left turn lanes?
Say it again, Carly.
Can you explain the shared left turn lanes?
Shared left turn lane, yeah. So we started getting shared left turn lanes probably in the last 10 to 15 years. Especially when they started developing areas like, what is it, Lakeport Commons, out by the mall. Okay, so I am where the picture is here. Okay, so what I'm looking at is picture right here. And so for the most part, when you are crossing traffic and you're turning, it's going to be a left turn. That's just the way our society works. In foreign countries where they drive on the opposite side of the road, right turns are crossing traffic. But for us, shared turn lanes are only going to be shared left turn lanes, which is why they call it shared left turn lane. Where you're going to find that is areas where it's not really required to stop. It'll be on busier roadways. And instead of putting a light, they just allow traffic to yield or to go when it's clear. So for example, before you turn into the area of where Buffalo Wild Wings is and Old Chicago and Olive Garden, they have shared left turn lanes to go when it is available to you. But the idea is you can turn left from both directions. So it is really important to make sure that you are aware of the traffic in front of you to make sure that you're not both trying to use the shared left turn lane at the same time. And you want to make sure that that lane is open to you when you do enter. As you can see on the outside of the shared left turn lane, I'll point that out. There are solid yellow lines. Okay, and hopefully that you learn in the chapter, solid means that you are not able to pass. Okay, easy way to remember lines in passing. If there's an opening in the line, then you have an opening to pass. If there are no openings, you cannot cross the line and pass. if that makes sense. So the lines on the outside, you are able to cross the line to make the turn, but they're solid, meaning it's not used as a passing lane ever. Okay, but the idea is you can turn left from both directions. So it's just kind of a separate lane just for turning.
Okay.
All right.
Can you explain the reversible lanes?
Yeah, on the page before that.
Yeah.
Yep. So first class had the same question. So what you see is let's see, red X's and green arrows. Obviously, red in the driving world typically means stop or some type of danger. So in that picture, you have 6 lanes. You have 4 lanes where the arrows are going down and 2 arrows where the lane is going up. So the signs that you see are what you would see when you're driving. So if you see there's a green arrow pointed down, it just means if you're in that lane, the green means you can drive in that lane. Now, typically, we don't see those in Sioux City, in the Sioux City area, because we're not a big city. The closest I see those is in places like Des Moines. So what they did is they built wider streets and reverse the lanes based on where the heavy flow of traffic is going. So there are some streets in Omaha that run east and west. So if you are traveling east, you're going into the Omaha area. You're going into the city. If you are traveling west, you're traveling away from the city. So typically what they will do is they will open up extra lanes heading east in the morning. Okay, and the main reason for that is a majority of the crowd will be going to the city to go to work or to go to school. So they open up those lanes going into the city only. Now, in the afternoon, they will reverse those lanes and open them up going west. Because again, a majority of your traffic is leaving school and going home to the suburbs or leaving the city from work, heading to more residential areas, which is usually out of the city. So what they do is they reverse those to allow more lanes for the heavier traffic. Does that make sense, Lauren?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. And like I said, we don't see those around here because we're not a big enough city to really support that. But you will typically find those in bigger cities. And again, as far as you as a driver, if you encounter that, green is good, red, stay out of it. All right, what else? Speaking of traffic lines, does everyone understand the 4 different types of lines? So lines are divided up into 4 different categories, but split into 2 main. So the first category is color. Who can tell me the colors?
Yellow and
The
white.
colors are
Yellow
white.
and white. Okay. What does yellow mean?
Yellow is caution.
Okay, so why would yellow lines be caution?
Because it means there's oncoming traffic.
Okay, so it's a caution or a warning indicating that the other side of the road, cars are coming in the opposite direction. What does white mean?
Could you repeat that?
Say again, Ben.
Could you repeat that, please?
Yeah, what does white? What do white lines mean?
You're traveling in the same direction.
Same direction. Okay, not to say that traveling in the same direction is any less dangerous, but there's more of a caution and awareness knowing that traffic is going in the opposite direction. So like Ben said, yellow is caution, and in the driving world, anything yellow is a caution. Yellow lines, you want to be cautious of traffic on the other side because they're coming in the opposite direction. Yellow lights are a caution. Typically, a yellow light means it's about to turn red, which means you need to stop. So it's cautioning you to be ready to stop. And the general warning signs are all yellow, cautioning you to, for whatever the words or the pictures are. So we've got yellow and we've got white. And again, I already explained what the dashes versus solid means. And again, an easy way to remember that is if there's an opening in the lines, it means you are able to change lanes if appropriate. You can't drive down a 2-way or a 2-lane highway and have dash orange or having dash yellow lines and think, well, I can just pass whenever I want. Okay, it has to be open for you and available to you to pass. Whereas white solid versus white dash, you're not supposed to cross white lines to pass. You're not supposed to cross yellow lines to pass. You can only pass in dashed lines. What does orange mean in the driving world?
Do you mean road signs?
Just orange in general.
Temporary road work?
Okay, construction. Green.
You're safe to go.
If it's a light, what about a sign?
Directional guidance.
Yep, green is guide. And again, there's a lot of different types of guide signs. You have guide signs that are mile markers. You have guide signs that are streets. You have guide signs that are exits. It just helps you guide where to go. And then probably one of the more important signs, I mean, obviously they're all important, but definitely the grouping of signs that you want to be very aware of are regulatory signs. So what are regulatory signs?
Telling you what you may or may not do.
Yeah, telling what you may or may not do. Okay, the answer is in the word itself. Regulatory. They are intended to regulate what you do on the road. So one very common regulatory sign is a speed limit sign. Okay, I love how they put speed signs together. What colors are speed limit signs?
Black and white.
Black and white. They are white signs with black lettering. Anyone want to unmute and tell me that if whether or not, or if they've heard the phrase, it's as plain as black and white?
Yeah.
All right, Lewis, can you explain what that means? Do you know?
Like it's easy and laid out for you.
Okay, meaning it's
I don't know.
okay. Anyone else?
It's like one or the other.
Yeah, that's simply it. It's one or the other. In a lot of cases, when they talk about black and white, it's right or it's wrong. And that's why I love speed limit signs. Speed limit signs are posted in black and white. So when they say the speed limit is 35 miles an hour, what does that mean?
It's 35 miles an hour.
Okay, meaning what?
But that's just exactly what it means, is what it says.
Okay, so what does it mean about 35 miles per hour?
That you should go 35 miles an hour.
Oh, so I have to go 35 miles per hour?
I think so, or you should.
Okay, so if I'm driving 30, will I get pulled over?
No,
Why not?
because I don't know.
Because doesn't the sign say I'm supposed to drive 35 miles an hour?
Yeah, but you can go close to it, I guess.
Okay, so I'd only get pulled over if I'm going 20 miles an hour.
I think you would if you're going too slow, but
All right, I'm just picking on you. And again, might be a situation where you've never really thought about that. Now, the regulatory sign, if there's a speed limit sign that says 35 miles per hour, it means you are allowed to go up to 35 miles per hour. That's why they call it a speed limit. So the word limit means you are limited to this amount, okay, which means you can go up to 35 miles per hour, but once you go 36 miles per hour, it means you are breaking the law. Now, do you think you will ever get pulled over for driving 36 miles an hour in the 35 mile per hour speed zone? Probably not. Okay. But if you do get pulled over, what do you have to argue about? Well, I was only doing 36. Well, how is that going to work explaining that to a police officer when you're going 36 and a 35? So, again, does it seem petty? Sure, but you legitimately are breaking the law, so you can't really argue. And when you say, well, I was only going 36, well, you've just admitted that you broke the law. So, again, I've never been pulled over for driving 36 and a 35. If you are wondering, yes, I have been pulled over for speeding, and I've deserved every ticket that I got. So I wouldn't argue with that. But again, speed limit signs are black and white because they're intended to be right or wrong. You either obey or you don't. Other questions? Do you know where you're supposed to stop at an intersection? Because I know when most of you get in the vehicle, you have no idea. From what I've seen from students in the past. Or they do, they just never choose to stop in the right place.
Don't you stop before the pedestrian crossing?
Yes, if there is a pedestrian crossing, you are supposed to stop behind the pedestrian crossing, technically. But there's a better answer for that, especially, Lauren, if you're looking at page 106. Because if you're looking at 106, well, what if I stopped right behind those dashed lines? Am I okay? So the picture that I'm looking at, for those of you if you don't have your books open, I'm looking at this picture right here. So what if I stop just right behind those dashed lines? Am I okay?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna go with no. Any idea why that answer is wrong?
You should stop behind the solid white line.
Yeah, and that's specifically what I was looking for. This solid white line here, Lauren, and maybe that's what you were thinking, and that's perfectly fine. This solid white line above the pedestrian crossing is called the stop line, which means you are required by law to stop behind that stop line. Come to a complete stop, make sure it's clear, and then proceed. If there isn't a stop line, that usually means there's not a pedestrian crossway, but doesn't mean the pedestrians can't cross. So where do you think your next place to stop would be if there's not a stop line? Where do you guys think?
Wouldn't it be before the crosswalk?
Yep, before the crosswalk. Again, crosswalks are typically noted in the street, but if not, typically you want to make sure you stop behind the sidewalks where that crosswalk would be. And most streets, intersections where you're at a stop sign, typically those stop signs will be behind the sidewalk to ensure that you don't go into the sidewalk. So the rule of thumb is to make sure that you stop behind the stop sign. So you either have a stop line or a stop sign in most of those intersections. At lights, there usually is always a stop line for you. All right, any other questions? All right, I don't have the test. I don't have the test up on Google Classroom right this second because I wasn't sure when we were actually going to start the test. I am going to get that loaded right now. I can find the right one here. There it is. Okay. That's good. That's good. All right. It should be assigning right now. All right. It should be live. Can somebody go ahead and turn your cameras on? Give me a nod if chapter 5 is there. Good. All right. And Ben and Ashley, I will get that sent out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.